Hi guys, my name is Barry and welcome back to the channel. You probably noticed over the past week or so on the channel and on my social media, I have posted a few Halloween TV series ideas that I really want to run by you in a more detailed way, and this is how I'm going to do it today. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Russellville. Now in my anthology, I've only done 4 ideas in this anthology, and the idea would be that you would have this Halloween TV series anthology with around about 3 episodes per town, per place. So Russellville would be 3 episodes, the next one would be 3 episodes, the next one and the next one. And that would give you a 12 episode series, which is kind of roughly what they would usually get for a TV series. And this is the 12 episodes that I'll be talking about, with each one being 3 episodes. My idea for the anthologies would be they would expand on the things that we already know within the Halloween universe, as well as add to it. The first one being Russellville, because I'll be setting this in 1963. And yes, there will be a twist in this one, so please watch to the end so you can understand how I'm going to be mixing this in to the Halloween universe. Now, Russellville has already been mentioned a couple of times in the first 2 Halloween films. In Halloween 2, it was briefly mentioned when Darcy was talking to Karen, and they're talking about Eddie Lee coming to collect Darcy, but she said he couldn't because he was in Russellville. Now, I wouldn't put those 2 characters in this anthology because that scene was in 1978, so they would only be like 2-3 years old if we're setting it in 1963. However, if you want to go back and forward, you certainly can and have those characters, but I would predominantly want this to be set in 1963 for a good reason. If we go to the caretaker talking to Dr. Loomis in Halloween from 1978, he goes on and talks about Charlie Bowles and obviously what Charlie Bowles had done, and that's a good groundwork frame for what we could see as the potential killer, a character called Charlie Bowles. Now, if you've seen my teaser trailer that I've done for the titles for the Halloween TV series, you already know that my idea for Russellville is, of course, Charlie Bowles, the serial killer.
I remember over in Russellville on Charlie Bowles about 15 years ago. One night he finished dinner and he excused himself from the table and he went out to the garage and he got himself a hacksaw.
If we look at the caretaker's probably about 50 years old, I would guess. So 15 years ago, back in 1963, the caretaker would have been about 35 years old, possibly round about the same age as Charlie Bowles. So we could have the caretaker being one of the main characters in this anthology, and that connects Halloween 1 to this anthology already. How this scenario would play out really depends on how they would want to go with the anthology. You could have Charlie Bowles at the beginning killing his family and then going on his killing spree, similar to what Michael Myers does in 1978, or because we already know the fate, or at least we think we know the fate of Charlie Bowles' family, he could go on his killing spree first and then finish off his family at the end of this anthology episode. So there's numerous ways you can do this. We could even do it where he doesn't even kill his family, because we don't exactly know what happens at the end of that story, because Dr. Loomis stopped the caretaker from finishing his story. So there's numerous ways you can branch out with the beginning of that story. We also need to remember, if we're going to make an anthology, not only do we want it to connect to the original Halloween series, we also want it to connect to other anthology stories within this anthology series. So if you're going to have those characters in it, you want to have other characters that you could maybe see or even hear of in the other anthology stories, so that it's all connected in some way. But most importantly, I think we should have a connection to Michael Myers. Now, I don't want this to be a Michael Myers centric series or anthology, but I do want Michael Myers to be mentioned. I want him to be a character's name, at least. If he's not seen, at least have a name in this anthology, so eventually we could connect Michael Myers to this whole anthology. When we look at Charlie Bowles, we could also see this as a potential route into what happened to Corey Cunningham in the David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy and Halloween Ends, where it's not Michael Myers doing the killing, but because of the events of what happened with Michael Myers, not the evil curse, because we don't want it to be supernatural, but we want that evil to spread around, not just Haddonfield, but around the surrounding areas. And that's what I want to get into next with the semi-twist that we would have in this show. In 1963, Michael Myers killed his sister Judith, and it sent shockwaves not just around Haddonfield, but I would imagine around the surrounding areas that know about the news of what happened on that night in 1963. So if we're setting this in 1963 with Charlie Bowles, they could set it on the same night and make it some sort of supernatural thing, but if they want to, they can set it a couple of days later, a couple of weeks later, or even a year later if they want to skip to 1964. But I don't think they should do that because the events of what happened to Charlie Bowles was in 1963. So if we stick it to the same night, and it just so happens these two things coincide with each other, and Charlie Bowles snaps just like Michael Myers did in 1963. Doesn't have to be a specific age of a person for them to snap. Michael snapped at age 6, and Charlie Bowles snapped at age, say, 35, and he went on that killing spree. So there is a connection there in terms of what happened on that same night. This is also why I would want Russellville to be the first in this anthology series, because I would imagine 1963 is the year that they would go back to at the earliest. Now, you can go back earlier than that, but you would risk over-explaining things. And I'm sure you're the same. I don't think we want to know too much about how Michael Myers became evil. All we really want to know is Michael Myers did become evil in 1963, but it's not just Michael, it's other characters in other areas. Michael Myers was the one that became evil in Haddonfield. Charlie Bowles was the one that became evil in Russellville on the same night. To me, it also felt like Russellville was going to be playing some sort of role in an eventual anthology series if Season of the Witch was successful. And the reason for that is because Russellville was mentioned in both Halloween 1 and Halloween 2. It could have been coincidental, but I don't think it was, because Russellville isn't a popular place in Arkansas. It's not too far from Illinois, but why mention Russellville twice? It could be so that they can connect it up to Halloween 1, but Charlie Bowles had no connection to Michael Myers, so they didn't have to mention Russellville again in Halloween 2. And obviously John Carpenter wanted an anthology series eventually, which they did get. So I was thinking maybe Russellville would have played a part if Season of the Witch was successful. Obviously it wasn't, so they probably scrapped any anthology ideas that they had. But Russellville just seems like one of those areas that they would have used eventually. So why not use it now in an eventual anthology TV series? So that's my idea for the beginning of an anthology, guys. Like I said, this would be 3 episodes. So you would tell the story of Charlie Bowles, him killing people within those 3 episodes. Mention Michael Myers, of course, because that's what happened in 1963 as well. Maybe people would try and connect the dots and say, well, this happened over in Haddonfield as well. A young kid called Michael Myers, and it's happening right now with Charlie Bowles. There must be some sort of connection, and maybe they can go on this hunt for 3 episodes to try and find out what happened. We don't know, and they can connect Michael Myers and Haddonfield that way. That's my idea, first of all, for the first few episodes of this anthology series, guys. What do you think of it so far? Do you think it's a good idea, or do you think they should just go Michael Myers all the way? Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you soon.
Meeting adjourned.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back!